about understanding the consumer in a different way. I wanted to emphasize that I think a lot of people, like you said, traditional marketers, has this concept of know your customer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they do it through elaborate and highly expensive ways of actually asking the customer. They can hire a survey company and do everything. So I want to explain how Gojek does what it does, so that it's very clear about what we mean by experimentation. Gojek is simply a completely assetless company with groups of people doing the highest volume experiments without breaking too many things. That's basically what it is. Every single engineer in Gojek is doing an A/B test of something to a consumer. So instead of asking what the consumer wants, what it does is it gives something to the consumer. Hey, here. And then the consumer plays with it, does something, takes some action, likes it, doesn't like it, etc. And then we take it to another branch of that tree. So it becomes yes, 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 validation. So the concept of testing what a consumer wants is actually experimentation. It's scientific experimentation. There's no difference in what technology does to what scientists do in a laboratory. So if you believe this, then your competitive advantage has nothing to do with your product.
That's exactly right.
Your competitive advantage in the entire consumer-facing business is how quickly and how reliably can you experiment. It doesn't matter what the status of your product, you're an incumbent, you're etc., it doesn't matter. Google is Google because Google continuously disrupts itself. It creates a completely fragmented autonomous organism that instantly gives you information about what's working, what's not working. This is working, that's working, that's working. And that's why AI is such an important element of this, because it reinforces the rate of experimentation. So I have a very, almost like, I could be totally wrong about this, but I have a very strong view about what competitive advantage is going to be defined in the next 10 years. And I think it is the rate of experimentation that you can pull off at any given time to the consumer. And that's why I think technology companies have a huge amount of advantage in actually going into different verticals and trying different things.
And implied in what you say is also an acceptance of failure.
Always. It's
Because
the best part.
that is an interesting lesson because sometimes,
How else do you learn?
well, sometimes governments and regulators try to insulate businesses from failure. And what you're saying is accelerate the rate of failure, which is what we learned from Silicon Valley and everywhere else. Accelerate the rate of failure to get to the stuff that works.
Such a simple example of that is this concept of consumer protection in e-commerce. Yes, people get screwed in e-commerce all the time. You know what the best consumer protection is e-commerce? Competition. If people keep getting screwed on one platform, they're just going to move to a platform that is secure. It's very simple. The government doesn't have to come in and create regulations to protect. Competition takes care of that on their own. So that's just a simple example of some of the assumed things that we need to protect.
Before we end, I do want to give people an opportunity to ask some questions of our panelists. Anyone have any questions for the panelists, or is everybody too tired to ask any questions?
Lynn, I think to add to your election question earlier and the points that you were making, I believe that's probably what, and that previous campaign that Trump was doing as well, what Nadim was saying, because they use A/B testing even in marketing all the time, right? I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Like, the more you put out these angry words, people are responding to that and resonate with that. So you just keep on adding more, which is what we did with the campaign before and all of the other digital marketing campaigns. Basically, either people like it, and if you do, then they go with that campaign. If not, then that's it, right? Or people are going to buy or not. And so people are going to like it when they spend money on it. Or people like it when they spend money.
It can also be scary, as we've
Yeah, exactly.
Does anybody have any questions out there? Here, a gentleman right here.
My question is directed to Sir Budi Makarim. Do you plan on expanding Gojek internationally? Because we know that Gojek is already really popular in Indonesia, and as a user myself, I really love the app. Do you think that Gojek has the possibility of going outside of Indonesia to places where maybe bikes and motorcycles are popular? Because I know that in some European countries, bikes are popular, and we could have used that as a platform.
we don't see any reason to internationally expand in the foreseeable future. I can never say never, right? But Gojek is a big experiment. It's a big experiment because there's no company in the world that has merged so many verticals. So when you're doing that, and I happen to be quite a nationalist as well, so I want to make Indonesia the showcase of a fully integrated O2O platform, the first in the world, right? No one's ever tried to do it. It's a big experiment. We might not succeed all the time, but I fundamentally believe that given how diverse we are, best to focus on the country that loves us already, but go across so many different verticals. Because that's the proof of the pudding. Can we bring all of this together in a single integrated platform? So no, not yet. We're gonna
Not yet.
Not yet.
Gojek's not ready to conquer the world
Indonesia.
yet.
We like it here.
Any other questions or comments? Anybody out there? If not, I'm going to go ahead, if it's okay with Shweb and okay with you guys. Anybody have any last words before we wrap up this evening? These folks have been here for an amazingly long time and for a very interesting day. I admire their ability. Any last words from anyone?
Just a comment. I could not agree more with what Nadeem said. I think if I go back to my original comments, to call things the fourth industrial revolution is masking where the real revolution is occurring. And again, if I may just paraphrase what you said, I believe so strongly, and for both of you, this may be the end of classic marketing as we know it. The idea the consumer knows what she or he wants in advance, you ask them good questions, you go and then deliver. I think one of the questions for truly global and innovative businesses is what is the system of relating to customers when classic market research no longer provides reliable signals? Because we're still building, even though we're the fourth industrial revolution, I'm concerned we're still building first world marketing departments.
Anyone else? Any last words?
I mean, I think what is most interesting is that we're seeing so many different companies doing so many different things, and then as I am talking to a lot of the startup founders or like the entrepreneurs, people tend to think that there are only one path or one way to become the next Gojek or like the next technology startup, right? Like they showcase all the time like these very successful companies, and yet on the other end of the spectrum, we see the Instagram sellers, we see the Gojek drivers. Like that's another version of entrepreneurs and people who are, you know, choosing what they do at a more flexible time, for example, and then still making money. I heard, you know, from the previous panels or speakers, I think there's like a gamer that makes money. So it could be done in so many different ways, and there's no one route to entrepreneurship or innovation in that way, or, you know, meeting the next revolution. And I think we should be cognizant of that, because what I don't want to be an impediment is that not just like people, you know, thinking that it's very difficult. There's like a barrier to entrepreneurship or creating businesses, because it is very important to understand that you could just try things, and then if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work, you know. And let's not make understanding how to code as a barrier, or let's not make regulation, of course, as a barrier, or infrastructure, but as long as you have a mobile phone and the willingness to do something, you could do whatever the hell you want, and you don't need, for example, VC funding, right, to make a successful startup, for example. There are so many paths to that, and I think because the media kept on covering certain ways to succeeding, getting Silicon Valley investors in your company, for example, as a technology startup is the only way to go, it's almost like we only see one path to success, and every single company should, you know, I think one of the ministers mentioned like burn rate and no profitability. I mean, if you're in that game, sure, but there are many games to play. Let's just not be too focused on one way. There's so many different ways, and people should just try it out, whatever feels good for them. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I want to thank our wonderful panel, and thank all of you for being with us today. And Shweb, what do we do next? Just stay there. Just stay here. Well, let's give everybody a big round of applause.